Hey, what's up, you guys? Great to have you back on the show. I'm Sean David. Thanks for tuning in. In today's video, I want to talk about why I feel that Michael Jordan would average over 40 points in today's NBA. And of course, I also have clips of former NBA legends giving us their opinion why they feel, yes, the same. But before we start with this video, if you like this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Also, if you want to support me, you can check out my Patreon account. And I would say, without any more blah blah, let's get right into the video.
If Michael played in this era, he'll average 50. He averaged 50 points. LeBron's a great talent, no doubt. He's probably one of the top 3 players ever played with Kobe, Magic, Kareem. But Michael's right there. I don't know why you guys discussed the GOAT.
So the first reason why I feel that Michael Jordan would average over 40 points in today's NBA is obviously the physicality of the game. I mean, it's no secret that the 1980s and the 1990s were a different decade and totally different when it comes to the physicality of the game. I mean, flagrant fouls today were a normal foul back in the days. So let's have a look. When Michael Jordan was playing in the 1980s and 1990s, we're basically talking about the best defensive eras. I mean, 95% of the mentality was no easy baskets, which means if you enter the paint, you will get hit. That's a fact. The best example is when Michael Jordan was averaging 35 points against the Detroit Bad Boy Pistons, and they literally had the Jordan rules, a style of play that was just inserted just to make life miserable for Michael Jordan. And as I said, he still was averaging 35 points per game.
There are 3 areas on the floor the Pistons need to be concerned about. He's sensational when he dribbles to his right. He's only great when he goes left. They will force him left as much as possible from the top of the circle area.
I was covering the team at the time. My eyes were telling me some Jordan rules going on here. So let me go write a story about this. Now I always get this. What are you talking about? There's no Jordan rules. We're just playing tough, physical, like anybody else.
When Michael Jordan has the ball on the foul line extended or wing area, he is so good, too good, at going baseline, coming back up under the basket, getting fouls on the big people. So instead, the Pistons will force him to come to the middle of the floor off the dribble, trying to get help from the next defender.
You'd say, what about the Jordan rules? And they say, what Jordan rules? And they'd say, what about this defense you're playing on? We're not playing anything special. And they all laughed and they'd wink and then they'd move on.
They also need to be concerned about pick and rolls. They'll trap everyone. And while Michael's doing his thing, just kind of creating, they'll run the next guy at him to double team him no matter who it is. But keep this in mind, Mark, they don't always use the Jordan rules.
Oh, they didn't preach it. They didn't brag about it. But it was on display.
Jordan to the foul line, room in the lane. Isaiah grabs him and fouls him.
The Jordan rules were for the Pistons to know about, not for anybody else to know about.
The Jordan rules, is that something you guys made up?
Jordan rules were, to stop him, period, because nobody else could beat you on that ball club.
They have been called a dirty ball club, and I can see why.
Much more aggressive team. And a hard screen on Chandler, and they're going to call a flagrant foul on him. LeBron James went into Chandler. That's going to be his 4th personal. It happened right here in front of us at center court. James obviously hurt and puts it up.
From that standpoint, you can't compare the 80s and 90s with today's game. Literally 2 different games. Kobe Bryant was basically playing in both eras, said it best.
More of a finesse game. It's more of, small ball. It's, which personally I don't really care much for. I like kind of smash mouth, old school basketball because that's what I grew up watching. You know what I mean? And I also think it's much less physical. Much less physical. Some of the flagrant fouls that I see called nowadays is just makes me nauseous.
The next point that I have is Michael Jordan's post-game. I mean, since the big died out in today's game, of course the post-game also suffered because of that. And Michael Jordan was the perfect guy when it came to post-move. His footwork was incredible for his position, and I think he would just abuse today's defenders. If he would post up against the shooting guard of today's NBA, I think Shaq would say, barbecue chicken.
So Scotty, I want to pick your brain. What do you think are some of the most unguardable moves you've ever seen or played against? Look, our producer Steve brought up MJ. Obviously, when you guys played together, when you guys went at each other, you had best defender in the league at the time versus the best offensive player in the league at the time. What was the thing he did that was hardest to guard when you went at him in scrimmages?
Mostly he would bag up and use his sort of fade away, jump fade to the baseline.
It's not unguardable until MJ's doing it, and then it becomes.
Jordan over Bowie. You know, the last 2 games, he's done a good job at just forgetting about it. Michael Jordan. Michael back to Bowie. Jack went after that one.
Byron Scott. Campbell had him rested. Here's Jordan for 2 more. No, yeah.
And the next point that I have on my list is the three-pointer. I mean, it's no secret that today's game basically consists of 30% three-pointers. It's a totally different game, especially offensively. But Michael Jordan back in the days only averaged 1.7 three-point attempts per game. And the very interesting part of it was Michael even considered shooting more, but he thought that it would take away too much of his game, which is why he didn't practice the three-point shot. Listen to the clip.
My three-point shooting is something that I don't want to excel at because it takes away from all phases of my game. My game is a fake drive to the hole, penetrate, dish off, dunk, or whatever. And when you have that mentality, as I found out in the first game, of making threes, you don't go to the hole as much. You go to the three-point line and you start sitting there waiting for someone to find you. And that's not my mentality. And I don't want to create that because it takes away from my other parts of my game.
So just imagine Michael would shoot more three-pointers and actually practice a three-point shot. That automatically would add up to more points per game. Logically, right? To me as a 90s fan, there's one game that sticks out when I think of Michael Jordan being able to shoot three-pointer.
The 1992 NBA Finals. Tonight, Game 1 between the Portland Trailblazers and the Chicago Bulls.
The Bulls only 2 of 11 from the field. Jordan from three-point land. There's Pippen setting up Jordan. Wide open for another three. Blazers get back. Pippen back for Jordan again for 3. Jordan eluding Robinson. Yes! 18 from Michael Jordan. And they match up once again. Here's Jordan to the fadeaway. 20 for Jordan. Jordan for 3. That's his 4th three-point field goal. Jordan for 3. Yes! That is an NBA Finals record. 5 three-pointers in a half. The steal by Pippen. And Jordan, 32 for Jordan. There's Jordan for 3. Yes! Did you see that look? Michael indicating he can't believe it. With 35 points, has set an NBA record most points in a half in an NBA championship series.
And the last point that I have on this list, I think that's also probably the most important one, is the hand checking. And I found a clip of Kenny Smith explaining exactly what this is probably the biggest difference. Kenny, your turn.
Well, we talked earlier in pregame about LeBron James being able to play forever.
He'll be 33 at the end of the month.
And we talk about the lack of physicality in the NBA, which allows guys to play differently and play easier. Because freeze it here. In the era that, these guys have played in, the Shaqs and the Charles and even myself.
We call it the man era.
Okay, there's no way that you can bring the basketball up and there's no one touching
without being pressured.
Or pressured. So as the play goes on, there's no one that ever gets touched. There's any pressure. See, if he didn't like that shot, he doesn't. LeBron James is the best player in the world. Freeze it. There's no defensive pressure or touching because of the new rules in the current state. So here's a guy who can play probably forever in this type of environment. And so you swing the ball around. No one's ever been touched once they get on the perimeter, and then you can just get wide open threes, and if you don't like it, take it later. That is the difference between the era. They always ask me, what would Shaq have done in this era? Or Charles. I said Charles would have probably scored a chameleon points.
I think that's a very good explanation when it comes to the handshaking. It's just a huge difference. And I would really love to see how today's players would actually handle that. But hey, that would be for a different video. Another thing that I just remembered is in the 1986-87 season, Michael Jordan basically came back from an injury and averaged like 37 points per game in such a tough era. So to me, there's no question that Jordan would average 40 points in today's game. All right, you guys, thanks for watching. That's it for today's video, and I hope to see you next time. Peace. I'm out. Hey, you guys, if you're active on Facebook, I can really recommend Open Court. As an NBA fan, you should find everything you need. If it's funny NBA videos, impressive highlights, or even NBA news, I check out Open Court every day.